Okay, in this class, we are going to talk about T+2 lows in clearance and settlement. This is an important class for new traders and traders that don't understand the process of all this. Why? Because it goes kind of against what we're used to as retail traders. So if I walk into a store and buy something with cash or credit, I walk out of the store with a product. And let's say I open up a JCPenney's or a Sears catalog, or go on eBay or Amazon and buy something online, that would be the transaction date where I pay for the item, and then the date is delivered is the settlement date because I had the product. So for example, I buy a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses off Amazon on June 1st. That would be the transaction date where I pay for the item. And then it gets to my house on June 3rd, 2 days later. That would be the settlement date. And I, as the buyer, paid for the product and got the product, and the seller sent me the product and got his money. Now, before we move on to why understanding T+2 lows as a retail trader is important, there's a few things that we need to learn beforehand. And those things are, there's a few great ways to trade in this market. You trade with cash, you trade with credit. And this applies everywhere, right? Whether you're a size trader or a retail trader on Robinhood, we know that we are in a credit-driven world. The same lies true in the market. And the market is currently being operated off a margin. And what margin is a loan against the capital in your trading account. So if you see that you have 4-to-1 margin, let's say, that means if you have $20 in your trading account, you can trade with $100. 20 of those dollars will be your cash, and any of those dollars will be a loan that's given to you by the broker. The same is true with size traders. However, size traders have something called a VIP brokerage account with these brokers, and where they get special privileges on how they can trade and how they can pay and all that stuff. And that's because they earn the brokers millions of dollars each year off of fees and commissions when they place trades. So the settlement date represents the time which ownership is transferred over from the buyer from the seller to the buyer. In most areas of the market, that would be 2 days after you make the purchase. It will be settled and you will own whatever you bought in the market. Historically, in the past, in the market, you were mailed a actual certification form for the stock that you bought. Now, when you buy it, the stock goes into your account immediately due to technology. However, that transaction that you did hasn't been clearanced and settled yet. So if you paid for that stock with cash account, it needs to settle before you can sell that stock, and that takes 2 days. Now with a margin account, you don't have to wait for a trade to settle before reusing the capital. So with margin accounts, you do not need to wait for a trade to settle before reusing the capital. This is essential for traders because it allows them to use capital without any delay. So remember when I first explained what margin was, and I said a 4-to-1 example with $20? That $20 of cash is known as your margin maintenance, right? That $20 allows you to get extra $80 of credit, right? So when you get this additional margin, aka loan, it's very important not to over leverage your account as a retail trader, right? Because this added buying power should be treated with caution, as it's easier to over leverage yourself than you realize. The maximum, and it's very important not to put all of your margin or even use all of your margin, because the more margin you use, the more you leverage, the smaller the move in the underlying stock can go against you before a margin call can be triggered. So back to that $100 of I have in my trading account, 20 of that dollars is my cash, also known as my maintenance for my margin. I have to have $20 in that account, or what will happen is a margin call, right? So if I put all $100 into Apple, I just throw all $100 into Apple, right? And if Apple goes against me, where my cash at $20 goes to $18, like now I have to face the possibility of a margin call. Why? Because my account fell below that maintenance margin threshold. And if a margin call is triggered, immediate action has to be taken. And that means that we can close out pieces of the position or deposit more cash into the account to bring that $20 back up, that $18 back up to $20, the amount of margin I have. And if I don't do anything, then an intraday margin call will trigger forced liquidation, which means the broker will just automatically close me out of that Apple position. So now let's dig into some of the mechanics, plumbing, whatever you want to call it, that happens once you place that trade between the transaction date and the T+2 settlement date, right? So when you place that trade, buying Apple with your broker, like your order is sent to a market maker that executes your trade, and then that market maker sends a record of the trade to securities, which works with the clearinghouse to record the trade. And during that 2 days, like it will take that clearinghouse 2 days to transfer the stock to the buyer and fund to the sellers, and that is known as the clearance and settlement process. In other words, like everyone gets what they agreed to when the trade was executed. And just some fun information about clearinghouses, that they are SEC registered organizations that act as like a central depository for the securities, right? They keep the record of the stocks owned through a brokerage. Like your clearing brokerage, like let's say Robinhood or Thinkorswim or Goldman Sachs or any of those, are members of that clearinghouse. And these clearinghouses have membership rules that are approved by the SEC that govern the activities of their members. And clearinghouses then establish financial requirements for members, including deposit requirements designed to reduce risk to the clearinghouse, which is why, like how you get the margin rules and how much margin you're allotted based off of the capital. I never worked in a clearinghouse and I don't know too much about it, but I know just based off of what JJ's talked about in his classes and all that, like they look at, you know, the customer, like how much you're holding in your portfolio, and use volatility multipliers looking at specific stocks, and then it quantifies their risk that they're willing to take with you and all that. So let's look at the Robinhood example that just happened with GME or AMC or one of those little meme stocks, right? Like they paused everything, assigned significant additional charges, and that was based off of like what order flow that they saw. Like they saw more buys than sell orders, and the volatility of it, like it required the deposit to be higher for the margin, you know. And hopefully that helps, because now the next class we will move into, we'll talk about how this applies at a larger scale with these size traders, and how we can project or predict, we won't say that, how we can anticipate the order flow, the straight order flow that will happen if we open below T+2 lows.